Now I know how it works.
Yeah.
So, question a lot of people ask is, how do I know that I have sufficient strength, integrity to overcome the challenges that I have? How do I know what kind of soul I have and what kind of gifts I have to know that I'm able to really succeed in whatever Hashem has destined for me? How could I see in myself what kind of soul I have? Sometimes, we definitely believe that Hashem puts every person where they need to be, but the question is, sometimes you want to see more. You want to know how that is expressed, especially when you find yourself sometimes in a pattern of making one mistake after another. So then you're like wondering, well, do I really have what it takes to get there? So I want to explore this question from the prism of the Haftorah of this week. The parsha this week talks about the mission of Moshe Rabbeinu sending the spies to Israel to scout out the land. And that mission wasn't successful, as you know. That the spies came back and they said we can't conquer the land. And that led to everyone crying and saying that Hashem can't bring us to Israel. And that night was the night of Av. And Hashem said because it was tears for no reason, therefore there's going to be there'll be other tears and many of the other calamities that happened the night of Av, like the expulsion of the Jewish people from England and from Spain, the destruction of the first and second Beis Hamikdash, and the final solution, and the World War I began. So all these different calamities were a result of this failed mission of Moshe Rabbeinu. But of course, this mission wasn't totally a failure. Just like the ninth of Av isn't totally a failure. Really, the purpose of the ninth of Av is about the coming of Mashiach. It says that Mashiach was born in the ninth of Av as well. So there was another mission that Yeshua sent spies in the Haftorah. The story in the Haftorah is that Yeshua sent two spies to Eretz Yisrael to see the best way to conquer the land. And these spies, they come to the border of the land of Israel, and they arrive at the home of Rachav. Who was Rachav? Rachav was a harlot. There's actually two opinions about who Rachav was. One opinion is that Rachav was someone who sold food. The Torah calls her a Zona. Zona usually is translated as a harlot, but sometimes it's translated also as someone who sells food. And there are both translations are perhaps correct. The people came to her, and they went to buy food, and they did other things with her as well. And that's why the Torah says that when they came to Rachav, she said to them, "I've heard how Hashem has done all these miracles for you and taken you out of Egypt. And I heard how he split the Reed Sea. And I heard about what happened with you guys in the desert. I've heard how you conquered all different countries." How does she know all that? She knew all that. The Talmud says in Zvachim, the Talmud says because every single minister and person of influence in her city would sin with her. That's why she knew every person and everyone's news. So she realized that they were chasing after these two tzaddikim, these two holy people that Yeshua had sent. And she's right. Very good, excellent. So she let them out. She hid them in this flax material, and then she let them out of her house through this rope through the window, and they escaped back to the Jewish people. That's the story in the Haftarah. So, what happened to this Rachav? Well, what happened to her? Anybody know? Yeah? Okay.
Her whole family was spared, right?
Oh yes, that's right. I forgot to mention that. Thank you. She said to them, "I'm going to save you, but please remember me." And they tied a red string on her door as a sign that when they come to conquer the land of Israel, they'll remember not to attack her family.
And that's where we get the red string from, or is that totally different?
The truth is that the red string, the Rebbe once said, is Darkei Amori. It's an Amorite custom, it's not a Jewish thing. So you don't have to do any more red strings. You're good without any red strings. But the question is, what happened to this Rachav? So the Torah says, the Talmud says, that this Rachav actually married later Joshua. She married Yeshua. Not only did she marry Yeshua, listen to this. From her descended 8 prophets who were Kohanim, among them Yecheskel, Ezekiel, and Yirmiyah and Jeremiah. They all descended from Rachav. And the question is, how is it that she merited to marry not just a tzaddik, not just a righteous person, but the leader of the Jewish people? And she had all these tzaddikim be her descendants. When they met her, she was 50 years old, and she was doing this since she was 10. Since she was 10, she was a Zaina, and for so many years, for 40 years, and then all of a sudden she turns around and she is considered to be the greatest tzaddikus. Not only that, the Talmud says that she was greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. How so? Moshe Rabbeinu davened to Hashem to come to Israel. Hashem didn't accept his prayers. She prayed to Hashem that she should be able to do teshuvah, and Hashem did accept her prayers. So what was her great merit that she had, that she was greater than Moshe Rabbeinu, that she had 8 children who were prophets and who were kohanim, tzaddikim, and she marries Yeshua? What was so amazing about her after 40 years of acting as a harlot? So she said, to the Medrash says, she said to God, I want you to forgive me in the merit of the rope and the window and the flax. Ordinarily, when someone would come to sin with her, she would put a rope out the window, she would hoist them up, and if she needed to hide them, she would hide them under this flax blanket, I guess. And the same thing happened when these 2 tzaddikim came to her. She saved them. She hid them with the flax, and she so people shouldn't notice them when they left. She let them go out through the window, and they went down the rope out of the window. So she said to Hashem, save me in the merit of the rope, the merit of the flax, and the merit of the window, which really makes us ask more questions than her answer. I mean, she wanted to say she did a mitzvah, she saved people, so say she saved people. If she wants to draw attention to those specific items, there's a lot of other things that happened with those items. A lot of other terrible things happened with those items. She sinned for 40 years with those items. So why is she saying to Hashem, forgive me because of the flax and because of the window and because of the rope? Those are the things that she did all these mistakes with. So why is she drawing attention to something that was such a terrible thing? She's saying to Hashem, I want you to forgive me because of these things. What do you mean? So there's an amazing Maharal. Maharal says like this: unlike a tree, flax grows in separate plants. And it's not like a tree with branches. It grows separately. And the word in Hebrew for material grown from flax, from linen, is bad. The word bad means alone. And there is a element of loneliness in each person. That's the emptiness you feel. You feel like you're looking for something, you need something, you're lacking something. That's your pishtan, that's your flax. Then there is your window. Your window is the way you look at the world around you, and doesn't necessarily mean the way things actually are. It's the way you look at the world. Your window might have different colors on it. You might see things not so clearly, but your window is the way you see the world around you, and your rope is the way you connect with the world around you and the way you bring the world around you into yourself. Those are the 3 items. So the meaning of the first item, of the pishtan, of the loneliness, is something which is very relevant in our time. It used to be that 10% of people will live alone. Now it's more than 30% of people want to live alone. And this idea of loneliness is something that is connected with the time that we're in, because the Torah says that there are 6 days of creation, the 7th day is Shabbos, and so too there are 6 millennia, which correspond to 6 days of creation. And we are about to enter the era of Mashiach. We're right now in history, if we were to divide history into days, we're right now on Friday afternoon. And each day of the week corresponds to one of the 7 spheres of the neshama. Which part of the neshama are we in right now? This is the time of Yesod. Yesod means bonding, which is the idea of feeling lonely, that you're looking for someone or something to connect to. And in Hebrew, the foundation of a house is also called a Yesod. Why is it called the Yesod? Yesod is what connects the house to the earth, is the Yesod. It bonds the house to the floor. A tzaddik is called Yesod. As the Torah says, tzaddik Yesod, tzaddik is called the foundation of the world. Why is that tzaddik called Yesod? Because that tzaddik connects every soul to Hashem. All the Jewish people connect to Hashem through the tzaddik. The tzaddik is also called Yesod. So in our time we have this element of Yesod, and people feel this yearning to connect, and that's how there is this great emergence of all kinds of social media. Business people realize the great need people have to want to be part of the action, part of what's going on in the world. They want to be part of something, want to know what's going on, and so they created this false sense of connectivity through media, which a connection that doesn't really demand anything from you. It's not deep. It's not a connection which is faithful. It's something which is just external, and although it seems to cause this connection, and you're able to really share information in a totally exponentially greater way than ever before. But on the other hand, it also creates this false sense of connection and exchanges a deeper connection, a real connection, with an external one. I want to point out that this phenomena, although I'm pointing out the negativity of it, there's also an incredible positive thing about this. Like that everyone said that before Mashiach comes, the Zohar says that just like when Hashem brought the flood upon the world, there was water coming from the earth and water coming from heaven. We learned about this a few years ago, and so too the Zohar says that there will be the wisdom of the earth, the wisdom of heaven will be revealed before in the 600th year of Noach's life. The water from heaven came to the world, and the water from the earth also emerged from the earth. So in a similar way, the Zohar says in the 6th millennium, the 6th century, all the wisdom of heaven will be revealed, all the wisdom of the earth will be revealed, to prepare the world for the coming of Mashiach. So that was around the time of the Baal Shem Tov. That's when the wisdom of heaven came revealed. That's when Chassidus was revealed. That's when the wisdom of earth was revealed. That's when technology became to develop exponentially greater. All of history up to that year, and from that year till today, it's the speed. Just the speed is increasing all the time. So that's in general how this is a gift from Hashem, and it has a positive purpose. As the Zohar says, the purpose of this revelation is to prepare the world for the coming of Mashiach. So Hashem gave us Chassidus, of course, to prepare for the coming of Mashiach, and also technology is something which could be used to share a Torah, and it's an amazing positive thing. Specifically, that everyone said that in technology itself, the item in technology that will develop faster than anything else is communication. They have said because Mashiach will come, we'll all be like one family, and therefore, since we'll all be connected, so therefore, to prepare for the coming Mashiach, technology will advance in the arena of communication faster than anything else. So it's not just a negative thing, but it's like it is the challenge at the end of time, at the end of Galus, before the beginning of Mashiach, the beginning of time, that Hashem gives us to use it in the right way. And really, the way we use this is really central to the purpose of Hashem putting us in the world. I know we don't believe that the sin of the tree of knowledge was with an apple, or with a blackberry, or with but it's just interesting that they use those terms, apple, blackberry. Get it? Okay, fine. Moving right along. So there's a guy. He's very depressed. He's very down. He's very sad. And he tells us, Rabbi, I don't know why I'm so sad, because I have so many friends. I have 3,000 friends on Facebook. And he does have 3,000 friends on Facebook. He is in a golden cage. He's in a cage. He thinks has all these friends and all these shallow connections, but it's not real friendship. And that desire he has is being substituted for something else which isn't real. They say that the average person, a third of human race, wakes up in the morning and goes on their social media and spends 28 minutes in bed. The average of those people that spend, the average of this third spends 28 minutes before they do anything else. Just going over their social media. If they can't find their phone, then that life is over. And that's where's that coming from? It's coming from this pishton. It's coming from the flax. It's coming from this need that we have to connect, which is really a positive thing. Which is really, as Baal Shem Tov says in the pasuk, they were hungry and they were thirsty. Their soul was wrapped within. So the Baal Shem Tov translates this verse: they were hungry, they were thirsty. Their soul was wrapped within to mean this: I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. Why am I hungry and thirsty? I think I'm hungry and thirsty because my body's hungry or thirsty. Baal Shem Tov says, why are you hungry? Why are you thirsty? It's because your neshama wants the sparks of Hashem in the physical. So I feel the hunger. Where's the hunger coming from? The hunger is really coming from my neshama yearning for the connection to Hashem in the physical. So, although I may be sending my rope out of my window in the wrong direction, but where that rope is coming from is from the holy fire inside me that I want connection. And I'm substituting it and exchanging the real connection for something false. You may have seen this picture of this 80-year-old woman celebrating her birthday, and all of her children, her grandchildren, great-grandchildren all around her, and she's looking around to everyone, and her face is crestfallen, her face is totally, because everyone's on their phone. She's looking around the whole her family, and there's nobody there. Dr. Twersky said something very fascinating. He said something really fascinating. He said that he did a study about depression, and he says that people who are prone to depression are very deep people, very real people. People look for the truth. They really want truth. They have real deep ambitions. They have real great dreams. And when you have such a great dream and such a real deep desire to connect to something real, and and you don't get it, it's a very short road from that deep desire being discouraged, being not getting there, that you get depressed. That's where depression comes from, and especially who gets depressed? People who have that higher kind of neshama. They've had this higher kind of soul, and that's why they're looking for that kind of connections, because they want the connection. They try to substitute it, this real connection, and they put the rope out of the wrong window. They put the rope out of the window to connect to the world in a way that's false. There's a great tzaddik whose name was a Tzanzerov. Tzanzerov, he knew of a Jew in Germany who was not keeping Shabbos, and he made great effort to meet him and to talk to him and to encourage him to keep Shabbos. The guy says, no, nothing to do, I'm not keeping Shabbos. So he spoke to him about doing something that was, I guess, allowed according to some opinion, somehow to keep Shabbos himself and have his workers come to the office, which is allowed in certain circumstances, depending on what's going on. And his students, his Hasidim, came to him afterwards and they said to him, Tzanzerov, why is it that you care about this guy so much? He's a guy. He's not religious. Doesn't keep. This guy is desecrating the Shabbos. Why is it so important to you in such length to reach out to him? So Tzanzerov quoted a verse of this past parsha, story of Miriam, and Hashem said to Moshe and to Aaron, to Miriam, how come you dare to speak about my servant Moshe? And Rashi says, how dare you speak about my servant, even if he's not Moshe? How dare you speak about Moshe, even if he's not my servant? How much more so that he's Moshe and he's my servant? So he asked a question. He said, listen, if Moshe is a servant of Hashem, and certainly Moshe has a great value, but if Moshe is not a servant of Hashem, what does the Medrash mean? How dare you speak out about Moshe even though he's not a servant? What is Moshe without being a servant of Hashem? And so he said that he had the following analogy. He says you have glass, and glass breaks, and glass falls into mud. No one's looking for the glass. But if you have a diamond, a precious diamond that it breaks into pieces and falls into the mud, it falls into a pile of mud, falls into a huge mountain of mud, everyone's going to look through that mountain of mud to find those pieces of diamond. So he said a Jew has a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu in him, as he has that pishton, he has that sense of yearning, that sense of openness to connect, to want to connect to something real. And even though it may be in a pile of mud, it's still there, and we have to look for it to find it. So just like there's a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation, so too there is a spark of Moshe in every Jew, and that's real, and that's there. And that's why he made those great efforts to meet this person, because he may not be a servant of Hashem, but he's still Moshe. He still has. We have that, even if we're using that connection the wrong way, and we're putting our rope out the wrong window and looking for the wrong things, we're trying to connect ourselves to the wrong things. But what's motivating all that connection? Why are we looking for that false connection? Because deep down we want something real. And that's what we try to satisfy in quantity, what we're not getting in quality, and we're putting the rope out of the wrong window and going the wrong place. So when I feel this loneliness, this yearning, I have a choice which window I'm going to put it out of, and it could be that I may for many years put it out the wrong place, just like Rachav did. For 40 years she was putting the rope out of the window in the wrong way for the wrong person to do the wrong thing, and all of a sudden when Pinchas and Kalev, these two holy great tzaddikim, came from Yeshua and they visited her, so she saw something different. She saw something that she never saw before, and that reached a place in her that really transformed her, that took all of that desire to connect, and it went to the very core of what motivated that desire in the first place, and it made her want to actually come back to Hashem and do teshuvah. That encounter with these tzaddikim really brought out that deep desire she had all this whole time to make all these connections the wrong way, and that revealed where it was coming from. And what happened to Rachav? What happened to her? She said she married Yeshua. Why did she marry Yeshua specifically? It's unbelievable. It's mamish, like, blows your mind. The Arizal says Yeshua and Rachav are both reincarnations of Yosef and the wife of Potiphar. And he says, if you want to see how they're connected, he says he shows very clearly how everything that happened to Yeshua happened to Yosef, and everything that about Potiphar's wife happened to Rachav. First of all, how long did Yeshua live? 110 years. How long did Yosef live? 110 years. Yosef was hated by his brothers and thrown into a pit. Yeshua also, he wasn't always considered to be the leader of the Jewish people. You know who he was? He was the guy who set up the chairs and the tables when Moshe Rabbeinu would speak. He was the guy who put up the chairs and the tables. So people said about him, he's just a foolish guy. He's just he's the gopher, slapper guy. And so Hashem said, I'm not going to hold back his reward. This guy who puts up the chairs and the tables, the people everyone's just putting down, he is the one who will lead the Jewish people. Yeshua and Yosef are both referred to by the same word in the Torah. They're both called a nar. Yeshua and Yosef both were involved in causing circumcisions to happen. Yeshua circumcised the Jewish people before they entered Israel, and Yosef famously caused all the people of Egypt to be circumcised as well. Rachav and Potiphar's wife also we see a connection in a more obvious way. They both were looking to do. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Yosef famously, and she was almost successful. And the reason she was almost successful is because Yosef was totally disillusioned with life, thinking about how he was hated by his brothers, and he was sold. He was accused of a crime they didn't commit, and he has nothing going for him. And she was threatening him. She wore new clothing every day and changed her clothing, and she threatened him. She said, "If you're not going to be with me, I'm going to make you blind and break your back." And she really could do all that stuff because she was in a position of power. And Yosef didn't sin with her at the last minute. Why didn't he sin with her at the last minute? The Midrash says because he saw the image of his father in the window. He saw the image of his father in the window, and he realized that he saw how his father had faith in him and made him also realize he's not going to satisfy all that emptiness in himself with this false connection, putting the rope out of the window in the wrong place. Instead, that made him look and realize that he has to satisfy this inner calling with something inside of himself and not by going after her. And that's also what Rachav did too. Rachav was totally involved, immersed completely in the wrong direction. And then when she met these tzaddikim, suddenly she totally did a turn, the 180, away from everything she was used to, and to look and to live in a deeper and higher and a way of a tzaddik. She converted to Judaism, and she became the wife of Yeshua and the mother of Yirmiyah, the mother of Yecheskel. There's an expression, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So there was quite some time, for 40 years, that she was involved in all this promiscuous activity, and then when she was ready, she did this one act of her neshama, of her soul, and that allowed everything to open, which tells us a couple things. There was a professor named Velvel Green, who was Chabad Chassid, who worked for NASA. One of the things that he was involved in was is trying to discover if there's life on other planets. So one of the things they did was they wanted to see if plants and microbes could survive on other planets. They sent up in a spaceship to the moon, these plants and microbes and stuff like that, and they got the pictures of these plants, and they discovered the following: the plant grows, and then it moves to the right and to the left, and then it dies. And he's trying to figure out what this was about, and the Rebbe told him how he has to pay attention, as the Baal Shem Tov says, whatever you see or hear in your life is a message from Hashem. So he was privy to see a lot of things that most of us don't see. He's working for NASA, and he said there's an incredible message he got from this plant. He says, how does a plant grow? Plant the seed in the ground, and in the seed there's tiny little things within the seed. I don't know what they're called in English, or there's ta'im. There's little cells, if you will. I don't know, inside the seed, and when the seed grows, so there's all these billions of things that are happening. This part of the seed discovers that it wants to be the roots, and it goes lower in the ground. This part of the seed says, I want to be the branches, and it goes higher. And this part of the seed says, I want to be the leaves. And all the different parts of the seed develop and they expand, and they become the tree. When the seed is taken out of the plant is taken out of the atmosphere, without the power of gravity, so then there's no higher and there's no lower. There's no ambition. Or the parallel for this in our lives is when you are living with a certain kind of ambition in your life, and you know what some people use the expression, how are you? And they don't realize the magnitude of how terrible the answer. The answer, mishlepzich. You know what mishlepzich is? I'm just schlepping along. I'm just pulling along. Mishlepzich. Don't say that. Don't say you're schlepzich. The person is put in the world to accomplish something. So what happens to the seed, when the seed is put in the ground, and the seed is out of the atmosphere and without the power of gravity, there's no longer a sense of higher and lower. There's no longer a sense of ambition. There's no longer any direction of and what happens? It dies. When you don't have any ambition, there's no life there. So what we're getting at is like this. Number one is we see the incredible power that we have inside of ourselves. The fact that we're looking for a connection, even if it's in a false way. That where is that coming from? That yearning to connect. It may express itself in all kinds of foolish things that we do on the internet. But where is it coming from? It's coming from the neshama's yearning that wants to connect. That's number one. And number two, we see that the moment that I decide to open up to something deeper within myself, and I decide to let go of all these external false things, and I decide to live deeper to what I'm really about, in my neshama, just like by Rachav, the moment she met Pinchas, she met Kalev, and she did one act of real heroism. She had sacrifice. It wasn't an easy thing for her to do what she did. It was mamish sacrifice to do it. So in a similar way, the moment I tell Hashem that I'm ready to something deeper, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When I'm ready for something, I was in the oil a few weeks ago. I don't know if I shared this with you. I probably didn't because I don't want to. I'll share it anyways. I was in the oil and I was thinking about different things I have to change. One of the things I think I have to change is the way I use the internet. And I walk out of the oil, and I get a ride back from the oil with a gentleman who has developed an app about called the present mode. And basically, it's like let's say you feel that you're the Mr. 911 person. You always have to answer your phone, right? Let's say how you messed up. So this present mode thing is that it sends a message to everybody that how long you'll be available. It also says that you're available in a certain way, however way you're available. If you are available, whatever. So that way you could be reached if they call, but you're not reached. Whatever. It's an app. The point is, I was ready, and the teacher appeared. So, but the key was that Rachav had this mysterious nefesh. She wasn't just ready. She had made lots and lots of mistakes for years and years and years, and yet when she was ready, she turned around. As Hashem said, "Okay." She converted. So. But even though she wasn't Jewish, it says in the Torah that Gershon is Gayer, that even if a person does convert, that indicates, I didn't like the word conversion, I heard, because conversion means that there's really a change. But the fact that a person chooses to become Jewish, that means that something that was there already in the first place. That's why the Torah used the expression.
Like almost in their body, but it wasn't completely.
Right. There's a connection to a neshama that's not yet in their body. And that's why the Torah used the expression, a ger who converts. Why doesn't it say a goy who converts? Because even before they convert, the Maharal says there's already a connection there. And who is the teacher? The teacher could be our children. The teacher could be a song. I don't know if you saw it. You have to watch Living Torah this past week. Unbelievable Living Torah. You see, mamish, the idea of people wanting to connect in an open and clear way. What a connection is. Mamish, unbelievable. Anyone saw it? You didn't see it this week?
I was about to see it somehow. Like there was a link, but like it didn't. I was like, okay.
All right.
Another time. Because it was clickbait. I didn't have to see this. Okay.
So one of what they did was they people Rabbi Levy, Olav Shalom, he was running the OK, and he was traveling to Russia for different occasions. I guess to oversee different kosher plant factories in Russia, and he was allowed to go back and forth, and he took to the Rebbe videotapes of people that he had met in Russia, and he played them for the Rebbe, these things that people said to the Rebbe on videotape. So one of the things, like the one guy tells the Rebbe, I just received word, I guess through Rabbi Levy, that I shouldn't apply for a visa, which means I'm never going to have a private audience with you. So can I please ask you, Rebbe, since I can't have an audience with you, can you at least send me a niggin? I could sing this niggin, and when I sing this niggin, I will know what the Rebbe wants me to do. I just heard a story today, unbelievable. There was Rabbi Shapiro, when he was in Russia, Rabbi Shapiro was the Rosh Yeshiva in Morristown. When he was in Russia, and he gave the Rebbe a report of his visit, but he forgot to mention a story which was like the highlight of the visit. But he wrote a detailed report. He forgot to say that the highlight story, which really touched him. So he called Rabbi Groner. He told Rabbi Groner, please tell the Rebbe the following story. What was the story? The story was that there was he met this woman who had given birth shortly before Yom Kippur, and she was very. And he met her on Purim time, and she lived in Odessa, and she said that in general, the way it works is in Russia, it's not a moil in every city. In communist Russia, there wasn't a moil in every city, so you couldn't really have a bris until you were well enough to travel with your baby, and so you had to wait a couple of months or weeks, whatever. Every person different until you're able to go and take your baby and to go on a train and go to a city which has a moil. But she said to herself, how could it be that her baby will be Yom Kippur without a bris? So she went immediately after the baby was born. She took a 24-hour train ride to Moscow to go to a moil in Moscow. And then she took a 24-hour train ride back from Moscow back to Odessa. Rabbi Shapiro asked her, tell me, which mikveh do you use over here? She says she goes to the Black Sea. The Black Sea doesn't freeze, but it's freezing. And she would go to the Black Sea to mikveh. So he told this, and she said this nonchalantly, like he asked her, how can you do this? She says, what am I supposed to do? Like, what else is there to do? So when he told this to Rabbi Groner to tell us the Rebbe responded, please share this with the Higim Mesiras Nefesh. Please share this with the local sacrifice, Bali Mesiras Nefesh, people who locally contend that they're also people who have lots of sacrifice, but they don't really. Please share this with them and tell them what real Mesiras Nefesh is. Anyways, the bottom line is that Hashem doesn't ask us to have the similar kind of sacrifice that they did in Russia, but there is a way to live deeper and to not to get swept away with external things, and when we do that, the Eibusher responds. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Hashem shall help us all that we should live deeper and higher and closer to where we're up to in history, close to time of Mashiach, and connect to Ahavas Yisrael, to other people, to Ahavas Yisrael, to Torah, to Hashem, and to Mashiach Tzidkeinu. We should see Mashiach Tzidkeinu tonight in Yerushalayim, in Har Kodesh, Beis Hamikdash, Tchias HaMesim, L'chaim.